I think there are a lot of people in the church who feel a real need to give of themselves.
And so we're sort of wrestling with this issue of, okay, the church is called to lift the poor, whoever they are.
As we were introduced to Stand in the Gap, it was at a time where we had a great burden for knowing that God was calling us beyond the walls of our church to serve our community in ways, again, as Christ's hands and feet.
When we bumped into Stand in the Gap, all of a sudden we're looking at basically the answer to our question right then and there. And so we embrace Stand in the Gap really as a way of saying, this is what it looks like for us to be the people of God for people that are going through difficult transitions in their life.
There is what we call a neighbor, and then a spiritual family that surrounds that neighbor. And it's a vehicle whereby we gather together and pray for our mutual needs, but specifically for the needs of the neighbor.
Stand in the Gap doesn't require really any experience. It requires a heart of wanting to give of themselves to help others. That's really all it requires.
It's freeing the people to do the ministry. As a senior pastor, it's a pleasure to be supportive of it. It's a pleasure to speak about it, to encourage it. But it's the joy of seeing your people set free to minister in ways that they never thought about before.
It's a very hands-on ministry. And in the case in my life, I had grown unsatisfied with just writing a check to provide for ministry to others. I wanted to be more involved, and Stand in the Gap has allowed me to be directly involved in the lives of others, which changed my life.
Stand in the Gap is really not Stand in the Gap's creation. Stand in the Gap is really what the people of God were always meant to do, to love one another, to relate to one another in ways that actually give life and create space for God to do His work and for God to do His transformation in people.
It is a way to see your people released in ministry in ways that will be not only life-changing for the neighbors, but life-changing for them personally.
It's there to help them see God operate in their lives so that when needs arise, the group prays for each other, they pray for that neighbor, and they watch God do the work.
I'm in my 5th spiritual family, and it's become just a regular part of my life. It changed my life from self-centered to outreach-focused.
Stand in the Gap is really not a program at all. It's a method for you to train your people to relate to one another in ways that give life.
It just requires the participation of people.
We're slowly but surely beginning to move to a place in our congregation where, in fact, the work of pastoral care is shared by the entire congregation.
It is a gift that doesn't happen apart from the church. I mean, it was invented. The whole vision is for a ministry that needs to be carried out through the church.
When a Stand in the Gap family is formed, and prior to its formulation, we supply them with training materials to walk them through what a typical Stand in the Gap spiritual family would look like and how would it operate.
We bump into families or individuals that are going through things. We have this model for pulling support around them. And again, all of the burden then for helping these people does not rest on the pastoral care side. I'm not needing to sit down with people for 10 weeks in a row to help them figure out their stuff.
I've not come across any more effective model in this area of ministry than I have seen in Stand in the Gap.
Stand in the Gap, in its most profound sense, is a way for us to fulfill what Paul says in Galatians 6, where he says, therefore, as we have the opportunity, let us do good to all men, but especially to those who are of the family of faith.